So-called Red Scare has been the main focus of most historians of the Cold War, but a lesser-known element, and one that harmed far more people, was the witch hunt McCarthy and others conducted against homosexuals. The Lavender Scare refers to the fear and persecution of homosexuals in the 1950s in the United States and the United Kingdom. As the era of McCarthyism began to rise, gay men and lesbians were considered communist sympathizers and susceptible to blackmail. U.S. government officials assumed that communists would blackmail homosexual employees of the federal government to provide them classified information.
Here we go. America the brave still fears what we don't know. God loves all his children. It's somehow forgotten, but we paraphrase a book.
In April of 1952, the American Psychiatric Association listed homosexuality as a sociopathic personality disturbance in its first publication of the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. However, the classification was later removed in 1973. President Eisenhower was so afraid that McCarthy's claims were true that he signed the Executive Order 10450, preventing any homosexuals from working for the government. Thousands of gays and lesbians were fired from the government offices and the military.
They swooped in like death with his scythe, sweeping through the place and knocking everybody out. Every one of the women. They pulled them out of bed in the middle of the night and set them up with lights, brilliant lights in their faces, and started questioning them about their sex life and whether they were gay and and it was by association. But you went to dinner all the time with, well, yeah, that was the chow hall. We went to dinner. Yeah, well, she was gay, so we know you are. They said to them, we have your friend in the next room. She's already told us that you're gay. So you might as well give us the names of others. You give us the names of others and we'll go easier on you.
I came across the book The Lavender Scare completely by accident, and I was stunned as I was reading it. I thought I had a pretty good understanding of America in the 1950s. The Cold War, the McCarthy era, the Red Scare, as it was known. But what was remarkable to me was reading the story of the Lavender Scare and finding out there was a whole aspect of this time period that I knew nothing about.
I, Dwight D. Eisenhower, do solemnly swear.
One of the first things President Eisenhower did when he took office in 1953 was sign an executive order officially prohibiting gays and lesbians from working for the federal government. The rationale was, you're in the closet, you're leading a hidden life, you're susceptible to blackmail. This began an effort by the federal government to try to identify and then fire any employee it believed was gay.
I don't care what they have to say, I don't care how much they scream and squeal. If anyone wants to come in and remove them in some dainty fashion, they're welcome to it. But in the absence of that, if lumberjack tactics are the only kind of tactics that crowd understands, and take my word for it, those are the kind of tactics we're going to use on them, as long as there is one there endangering the lives of 150 million Americans.
More than 10,000 federal employees lost their jobs. It is without question the most widespread and longest-lasting witch hunt in American history. And it was just amazing to me that such a important part of our history had been completely overlooked. This story is a classic tale of both tragedy and triumph. Tragedy because thousands of lives were ruined during the 1950s and 60s by this policy of the U.S. government. But there was triumph, too, because that heartache ignited a sense of outrage in the gay community that really helped spark the early days of the gay rights movement. And I really think that's an important reason to make this film, to understand the struggles and sacrifices of prior generations, and to also see how commitment and activism can make a real difference.
Because if you executed the homos like God recommends, you wouldn't have all this AIDS running rampant.
Some reports of the HIV virus first began to emerge in the United States in the 1980s. The HIV epidemic has frequently been linked to gay and bisexual men, adding to the prejudice and stigma against the LGBT community. People were scared because at that point in time the world knew very little about sexually transmitted diseases. Panic rose in America as the mysterious killer took its toll on thousands of men, and a CDC task force was formed to control the outbreak. Dozens of awareness organizations, public speakers, PSAs, and school programs were administered to educate America, in addition to the few million brochures that were mailed to every household in the U.S.
For the past 25 years, the FDA has banned all gays who have ever engaged in any homosexual contact from donating blood. They claim that men who have sex with other men are at much higher risk of contracting and transmitting HIV and AIDS. Even if this were the case, the FDA using a blanket ban is like punishing 99 people of one identity for the actions of one of their peers. And the blanket ban doesn't only discriminate against gays, but it also threatens the lives of citizens who need their blood type available at a moment's notice. But don't worry, homosexuals and bisexual men are not the only ones who are discriminated against when it comes to donating blood. Prostitutes and drug addicts are banned too, which makes perfect sense. I can definitely see where they're coming from. A homosexual in a monogamous relationship is just as dangerous as a drug dealer who shares needles or a slutty prostitute. But most outlandish of all, straight men who admit to having unprotected sex with HIV-positive women or prostitutes are only banned for a year. Gays are banned for life. The FDA performs 13 tests on each donation of blood, and they claim that the risk of getting HIV from a pint of donated blood is only 1 in 2 million units transfused. So basically, by banning an entire community, you're either exposing your little faith in your 13 tests that you use, or you're just inherently and historically homophobic.
Imagine all the people.
In 1950, Harry S. Truman signs the Uniform Code of Military Justice, which enforced discharge rules for homosexual service members. Later, Bill Clinton introduced a compromise known as Don't Ask, Don't Tell, that issued a defense directive that military applicants should not be asked about their sexual orientation. However, gays and lesbians could still be expelled from the military if officials found out that they were homosexual. In 2009, Barack Obama repealed the bill altogether, and gays and lesbians are now free to serve openly in the armed forces without fear of being persecuted.
What this means is they're saying that straight soldiers feel uncomfortable around gay soldiers, and sometimes it causes tension, hostility, and possible performance inadequacies for straight soldiers who are homophobic. Well, Matthew's gay, and it made us uncomfortable, so we killed him. Oh, he's gay. It makes me uncomfortable. Send him home. If you are not committed to perform with excellence as a United States soldier because you don't believe in full equality, go home. If you are not honorable enough to fight without prejudice, go home. If you are not capable of keeping your oath to the armed forces to defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and I will bear true faith and allegiance to do the same. Unless there's a gay soldier in my unit, then go home.
I'm so happy to have you here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Totally. Thanks so much.
Thank you. It is, I'm sure, very difficult, but please remind people, if they had not heard the story, what happened to Matthew.
Well, in October of 1998, Matthew accepted a ride from a couple of young men who proceeded to rob him and then beat him. They tied him to a fence outside of Laramie, Wyoming, and left him there to die. He was found 18 hours later, and he passed away 4 days later.
what we just found out right before you walked out?
Yeah, we just found out that the part of the bill that will increase existing hate crime laws and it now protect sexual orientation, gender, disability has been passed on the House floor and will be going to the Senate.
As a side note, both Matthew Shepard's killers have life sentences in prison, and laws have since been passed that homophobia cannot be used as defense anymore in hate crimes in our judicial system.
Over the rainbow, way up high, and the dreams that you dream of once in a lullaby. You dream of, dreams really do come true. Ooh, someday you wish upon a star, wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where trouble melts like lemon drops.